Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hi. Happy New Year.
New year, new episode, new girl.
New girl.
Yep, we are starting our year off with new beginnings and fresh starts, and I feel like this is an extremely appropriate TV show premise episode for that. But before we get into all that, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. We're recording this before all of that, but we're going to pretend like it's the future.
After, yes. Our future selves are telling us.
And we went and saw Nosferatu. We haven't seen it yet. We're going to see it on Monday. I'm really excited. But yeah, so how do you feel about New Year's resolutions? Like, what is your take on them? Do you think that they're...
Well, I'm a big believer in the whole concept of a New Year's resolution, but I'm definitely more of like, I'm going to do something as opposed to saying something absolutely ridiculous like, I'm giving up candy. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I mean, I could probably do it for a couple of weeks, but as soon as like Valentine's or Easter rolls around, I'm probably having some chocolate.
Right.
I mean, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in like doing something to be more proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely need to work on my weight. I lost quite a bit of weight when I was preparing for surgery, but I have since gained some of that back. And so I think both of us would want to get healthier.
Yes.
And I definitely feel like that involves like meal planning and, maybe curbing going to eating at fast food or even restaurants. And I know we both love to do that. I'm not absolutely saying we're never going to eat at Taco Bell again, because again, I travel for work.
Yeah.
So I have to eat out whenever I'm at, doing work, but I want to try to be more thoughtful in what I eat. I think that's it for now.
Yeah.
I mean, just trying to be a little bit more healthier. I'm getting up there in age, and so definitely want to think about that. What about you?
Well, I think just overall becoming healthy, becoming healthier, getting into better shape, being more active. It's really easy to kind of get into a routine and kind of do the same thing. And, before work, I'll usually kind of sit and watch TV and, maybe instead of doing that, can start like exercising or, doing something around the house. Just being more active, I think, is what I really want to do more of, because I used to be a lot more active and I've kind of slowed that down a little bit.
Well, I mean,
I think COVID was the main reason for that. But
me, I mean, I'll say, when I tore my meniscus in 2016 and then had surgery on that, I feel you. So it's easy to stop doing something and then you're like, okay, wow, it's been like 7 years, so.
I definitely want to eat less fast food because I too am getting older and that's just not good for you. And just eating grease and fried foods, not just fast food, just fried food, greasy food, all the starches and all the things that, like, if you have, like you say, if you have too much of anything, it's not a good thing. But, eating healthier, eating more like, I'm such a snack person that, like, I just eat throughout the day. And instead of doing that, like, just having like 3 solid meals, I really would like to start doing that more often. It's just really difficult because of what I do for a living and the hours that I work. And people always think because I work in a kitchen and I'm a cook that it's like, oh, well, you can make whatever you want whenever you want. And I'm like, it's not that simple.
Well, right, because I mean, if
a lot
you
of times
slammed.
a lot of times I don't have time to eat, and when I do, I'm eating like literally like pieces of turkey meat. Like
right, because y'all don't have a big crew where
right.
at a place, I'll just randomly say this, so don't come at me in the comments if this is not true, but at a place like Chili's where they have like a schedule of people coming
right.
in and out, and I think at a place like that they give their employees like eating breaks. It's one of the benefits I think at a place like that, that they get a meal on shift, where not that George's wouldn't let y'all eat, but there's just never time. There's not enough people on the line to take a break because it does get busy. So I think that's what's difficult about where you work.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty much my New Year's resolutions. I mean, it's just wanting to be healthier and being more active, and that's it. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty I can't with the people who go too hard on their resolution, and it's like an unreal, like you said a second ago, like an unrealistic thing that like I think a lot of people are like, this is my resolution, but they're not really going to do anything about it. They're just like, this is my resolution. It's like something you just proclaim now. It's not really anything that you actually do anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people do that.
I do also like doing something for the community. You know, I'm really big on getting AOPI to donate to the Baton Rouge Community Fridge and stuff like that. So definitely going to try to reach out to the family and other non-AOPI friends, maybe to do something like even simple. Like I looked at the list the other day, and, you know, it was something like they can also use hygiene tools like toothbrushes or combs and
that's awesome.
You know, like the Bath and Body lotion and stuff like that. And so we had some extra from an AOPI thing we had done, and so I gathered up like a bunch of hand lotions and the body gels and some extra toothbrushes, and it was really sweet. A lady walked up as I was like filling the pantry, and she was just standing there waiting for me to finish, and when she looked at the toiletries, she was like, what is this? And I said, oh, it's body gel, like for the shower. And she goes, oh, I am going to smell so good when I use this. So, of course, it just like, you know, my tenderoni heart, I was like tearing up. And, you know, so, I mean, someone might look at that and be like, it's just like a little piece, like a little body gel. But you just never know if someone might need some soap or a toothpaste or a toothbrush, because I know this is going to sound silly, but like back when, before COVID, hotels used to have the like mini shampoo and the mini conditioner and the mini lotions. Actually, a lot of them don't have that anymore. They have the big dispensers, kind of like on cruise ships. And so I kind of do miss those. So I am going to be looking out for any of those in the hotels, if some of them still might even have some of those when I travel, because I used to bring those home for my mom, because the little bottles were much easier for her to manage than a big bottle. Like her hands just couldn't hold the big bottles any longer. So I know. So it's, I know you're like pouting, but thinking about my mom, but she loved them because she could hold it and she would just be able to squeeze it and not drop it. And so like, I know like a lot of times she would drop it. So, but that just reminded me when I was at the Baton Rouge Community Fridge a couple weeks ago, when that lady said that, I was like, I need to look out for more of those kind of things. And, you know, just, I know if I asked like a few friends and made an Amazon list or something, like I know that they would donate.
Yeah.
So.
And every town and area has a community fridge. So if you have canned goods, extra, maybe a pack of socks that you have lying around. Too. I was thinking when you were saying that, I was like, there are probably so many random things that you just don't think about, like shoelaces. I know that's like a really weird thing, but like people may need like, or shoes in general, but I was just thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, God, like just the little things that you just don't think about.
Right.
That
and
shoelaces was very specific, but I was thinking about shoes. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing. Like, I know I looked on the list, I should have taken a picture of it, but they have like a list of items that they prefer, and you know, like why they prefer it. And so like I've kind of gotten obsessive about when I make donations. Like actually there was an AOPI who just sent me money via Venmo, and I am saying this on the pod. It is true. I go and I spend every penny of that donation. I do not keep that in my Venmo. I go and spend it. I even take pictures to show people that I have purchased things.
It's legit.
It is legit. But I kind of got crazy because I would go and buy a bunch of random things, like whatever was like inexpensive. But then I got to thinking, like looking at the pantry, I was like, but I couldn't make a meal out of all these random things.
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, what can I buy that wouldn't be super expensive, but I could make an entire meal out of it? And so like this round, I got like jar of spaghetti sauce, spaghetti. I got tomato sauce. I got like Parmesan cheese, and you know, there wasn't meat, but I mean, at least that would be something. Maybe they could afford maybe to go get their meat. Then like the other one that I love that I thought was super cute was, I got like a pack of tortillas. I got like canned chicken, which I actually use making soup. Then I got like a packet of taco seasoning. And I got a can of refried beans and like the instant packet of rice. And so like that was totally a meal. Like that could totally make an entire meal for like a mom and a dad, or, you know, or a mom and a child or something. So, you know, when I took pictures of it, people were like, you are very organized. And I said, but I started just to really think, like, I mean, I could have filled it up with like corn, green beans, vegetables, but then I'm like, but that's not a meal.
Sides. Yeah.
Right. It's like a bunch of sides, and you know, it's all mushy. And at least this might be something that would be a satisfying like meal in and of itself. So
and it's something that you can make with limited resources.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh, like a microwave or something, maybe a burner. Oh, and then the other ones that I did was I got like canned beans, like pinto beans, black-eyed peas, red kidney beans with packets of rice as well. So again, New Year's Eve, black-eyed peas and rice, and then red beans and rice. And so again, maybe they can supplement it with like some sausage or like some ham, and you know, make a meal versus just getting, like you said, a bunch of sides.
Right.
So if anyone is ever listening and you would like to donate, I'm happy to go shopping for you. It, you know, is my favorite thing to do. So I love shopping. But anyway.
I thought loving me was your favorite thing to do.
Oh, it is.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
All right, so we've gabbed enough. Let's gab a little bit more, but about what the episode's actually about. We are starting off January with New Girl, as we said earlier, a show that we have both been aware of for a very long time. And your microphone. Yeah, you're good. Just want it to sound good.
Okay, thank you.
A show that I think we've both have known about for a long time.
Oh, and I love Zooey Deschanel.
And everyone else in this cast as well. I mean, it's such a great cast. We're going to get into it in a minute, but it's a show that I think even when it crossed over with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I still didn't watch it. Like, I mean, like, in Brooklyn Nine-Nine is like one of my favorite shows ever.
I don't know when it came on during the week or what time.
Same.
It's probably just one that just didn't cross paths with what else I was watching or my free time.
All right, so we are doing New Girl, and Anna, as always, is going to give us some episode and series information.
All right, New Girl, the pilot. New Girl was an American sitcom that aired on Fox from 2011 to 2018 for 7 seasons with a total of 146 episodes.
I had no idea it was on for that long.
Me either.
You just said it right before we recorded. I was like, neither did I.
And that's a lot for, you know, any show these days. Yeah. So the series was created by Elizabeth Merriweather, a first-time series creator who would go on to create other shows such as Single Parents. I loved that freaking show. And The Dropout.
Yeah, she makes a lot of your faves.
Oh yeah, I love The Dropout too.
Single Parents is really funny. We'll do that one month.
Yeah. The pilot was written by Merriweather and was directed by Jake Kasdan, a well-known director of both TV and film who got his start directing episodes for Freaks and Geeks.
One of my faves.
And would go on to direct Orange County, Walk Hard, The Dewey Cox Story, and all of the Jumanji sequels. The series centers around Jessica Day, a school teacher who is forced to move into a bachelor pad with 3 male roommates after catching her boyfriend in the act of cheating on her.
I don't think I ever knew what her occupation was.
Yeah, I don't know if I picked up on that either.
I'm sure they reference it later, though.
The cast includes Zooey Deschanel as the cliche quirky girl, Jessica, or Jess as she is mostly called. Her roommates, the hapless yet grounded Nick, played by Jake Johnson. The neurotic, self-proclaimed ladies' man, Schmidt, played by Max Greenfield. Motivated, sensitive coach, played by Damon Wayans Jr. And then we also have Jess's confidant and cynical best friend, Cece, played by Hannah Simone. Coach originally only appears in the pilot as Damon Wayans Jr. was committed to another one of our favorite series, Happy Endings.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 2 of New Girl would add Lamorne Morris as the silly, laid-back Winston, who also went to college with the guys. Who I love him. Oh yeah, as well.
I mean it's replacing
he was in Game Night,
replacing a favorite with a favorite.
Oh yeah, I mean it was fine. Wayans would return to New Girl as a main cast member in season 3 after Happy Endings was canceled.
A travesty.
I was upset. Other guest appearances in the pilot include Mary Elizabeth Ellis as Nick's ex-girlfriend Caroline, Jillian Vigman as Schmidt's boss Kim, Ian Wolterstorff as Jessica's ex Spencer, David Nair as Schmidt's former roommate Benjamin, who's also Todd from Community.
Yeah,
my favorite.
I think your favorite episode of Community,
the Law and Order
episode.
Yeah. Jack Yang as Benjamin's friend Peter, and Lauren Dare Owens as the young Jess. You can currently watch the series on Hulu and Peacock.
So you said that you think this was just a show that just slipped under your radar?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was the same for me, too. I think another reason why, and this is no offense to Zooey Deschanel, I think I was just kind of over this
quirky
girl thing that had kind of been a thing.
Well, was it on around the same time as like Two Broke Girls?
Yeah, and it was like, oh, I just can't stop falling over, and it's just like, you know, it's a stereotype that isn't. It was just stale at this point. But of course I didn't realize who else was on the show. Here, hold on. I didn't realize who else was on the show, and I didn't know how funny it was until Summer, I think, and Wes started telling us about it.
Oh, okay.
And a game that they play on the show. Now I can't remember the name of it, but it was like Summer always wanted us to play it, but like it's a game that that doesn't have rules. So like I'm like looking it up. People are like, this is the best I have with what this game. I really wish I would have looked up what the game was called. It's driving me crazy now. But
okay, I'll look it up.
Okay, but yeah, I think I was just a little tired of that. But once I heard Summer and Wes talk about it, I was like, okay, let me give this show a try. And I think it was during the height of...
Is it called the True American Drinking Game?
True American. I think I get... Yeah, I
guess. It's True American, but it's a drinking game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does it have like rules or anything on it, or like a description of it?
True American is a drinking game invented by Nick, Winston, Schmidt, and Coach, adopted by Jess and Cece when Jeff moves in. The rules of True American are very elaborate and complicated and never fully explained. Yeah. So, the game was expanded to include stripping during the Cooler episode and in Wedding Eve. And then they play the First Lady edition in honor of Cece. It has been played in every season except season 4.
Oh, okay.
So there are teams, there's a castle, there's a layout.
Oh my God.
There's like...
I need to watch that episode.
Yeah.
Where they first introduce it.
And other random rules are everything you hear in True American is a lie. When a player finishes a beer, they all have to yell something. Like, there are all kinds of freaking rules. So
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. If you are caught without a beer or with only an empty beer, you lose. If you step in molten lava, you lose.
Oh, can't touch the floor. That's the part. This is
like crazy. So yeah, I guess we need to watch a couple of the episodes with the game.
Definitely. So what did you think of the pilot? So I know I watched it when I lived here, but I didn't really like get that into it. I just
never watched it until we watched it.
Okay,
that was the very first episode I think I've ever watched.
So what did you think of the pilot?
I thought it was really cute, and I thought the premise was cute that she had to move in with 3 guys, thinking that it was going, I think, to be females based on the ad or whatever she was, looking for the apartment to move into. So, I mean, again, they used a very common trope of like a breakup and, all of that, which we've seen in so many shows over the years. I guess it's an easy one to start out with because it's a way to have a new, fresh beginning, which is the theme of this month. So it works. But I thought it was really cute. I thought the guys were all very sweet, and it was a good episode and kind of setting things up like we've talked about, where they live, what they did, the dynamics and all of that. So it was cute. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too. All right, so we've done other shows and had other episodes where we talk about cohabitating with people.
Yes.
But we're never really, at least for me, I'm never really out of roommate stories because I think I've just lived in so many different places and I've had so many different roommates over the years. Do you have any roommate stories that you can think of that are a little...
So the majority of my roommates are college roommates because I moved from home to college and then back home to live with my mom while I was in law school. And then when I lived in Seattle, I was alone, and then alone until my boo moved in. That would be you. So... I do. I have had several college roommates, and I'm still in touch with actually the majority of them. So my first college roommate, her name was Terry. She was from Vicksburg, and she was a little bit older, actually, which was kind of weird because she was living in the freshman dorm, but she had transferred from community college.
Okay.
So I think they kind of thought she was new, so they put her in the freshman dorm. And we got along really, really well. I mean, just again, I didn't know anyone at the college that I was going to, so it was total potluck of who I got. But she moved out after that year because again, she was older. I think she was actually already like 21 when I moved to college. So I think she just wanted her own apartment. She had a boyfriend, and you obviously can't have guys spending the night in the dorms. Then sophomore year, I was supposed to move in with someone, but she decided to move into the sorority dorm. She was in another sorority. And so I got, again, another potluck roommate. Well, she ended up getting pregnant within like the first couple weeks of the semester. And I actually don't know like really whatever happened. I know she obviously moved out because she moved out, and they didn't ever give me another roommate. I had my own dorm free of charge for the rest of that semester. And then the next semester, another friend moved in, and her name was Janelle. And so we roomed together that spring, and then again that fall. We kind of had a falling out. We just had kind of grown apart over the summer. And then by then that fall, my dad passed away, and we had, like, Janelle and I had fallen kind of off of our friendship, and I decided to move into the sorority dorm. And then I moved in, and my roommate was Ashley, who I had been friends with, and we lived together for about 1.5 years. We had a blast. We just cut up. And then again, she decided she wanted to move out because she had a boyfriend, and again, you can't do boyfriend things in the dorms. And then my roommate, Pam, who I ended up living with the longest, and to our apartment in Monroe while we were both teachers. And I still keep in touch with her today. You haven't met her. She just hasn't been down here. You haven't been up to Monroe, but she's a teacher. We were both teachers, and we had fun because we would have summers off and weekends off, and we would go on road trips and do really random things. And it's just kind of crazy to think that we were both teachers, and I was making like $12,000 a year. My paycheck was $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And she was making a little bit more money because she was teaching in the like city schools. I was teaching at a private school.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't ever remember feeling like I was really poor. I was. I mean, but we had a blast. So I've had really good roommates. I couldn't judge the one that got pregnant because she was gone.
Yeah.
Janelle and I, again, were friends. We had fun. We just kind of grew apart. And then, none of the other ones, I don't think, moved out because they didn't like me. I think they just wanted an apartment. And I always lived in the dorms because I didn't have a car. So I wouldn't have had any way to come to campus. So yeah, those are my roommates. And then in Seattle, my law school friend Alex moved in with me for a couple of months because she was kind of in between jobs, but then she got a place with someone else. So
okay.
Yeah, what about you? Who are some of your memorable roommates?
Okay. So I've had a few and in some of these incidences I've been a good roommate, I've been a bad roommate, I've been a messy roommate, I've been a bossy roommate. Like I've always kind of served a different role with different roommates, just depending on who it is. Sometimes I've had to be more responsible. Sometimes they were messy, so I was messy. It was just kind of one of those things. I just kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
But yeah, so my first roommate was my high school girlfriend. We lived together for, I don't even think we made the 6-month lease.
Oh, wow.
Her mom, I think, she worked for like a property management place. So we got like a really good deal on this 2-bedroom apartment on Park Boulevard right before it turns into Dalrymple. I think I've showed you those.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think I pointed those out to you one time.
Like in the Garden District, the little area. Okay.
And I think that was my first real experience with having like living with someone that wasn't a family member, and it was every typical, stereotypical, predictable thing. She too had never really had a roommate before, and we were both, probably a little too spoiled young and a little immature and, maybe a little entitled. And because it was one of those things where it was like she didn't clean and she didn't do anything, but like she would get on to me when I didn't do it. And I was kind of like, I was really messy, but then I would get on to her about being messy. It was like one of those things. And yeah. I think being a roommate, and anyone, take this from someone who has a lot of experience with roommates. I'll give you some advice. If you want to be a good roommate, you need to compromise, you need to communicate, you need to lay out ground rules, and you need to come up with a system of how you're going to pay the bills before you get all into it. And if you're sharing a bathroom, that's a whole other conversation you got to have. I haven't had to share a bathroom with a roommate in a very long time because you're not my roommate, you're my wife. So
correct.
But by the time I came around here, I was a lot neater and a lot cleaner and a lot more organized.
And I think that's really important about what you just said about like laying out the ground rules. Mm-hmm. I'll talk about us in just a second. But Pam and I were really good roommates after living in the dorm because we moved into like a 2-story townhouse, and because we were both sort of poor teachers, like we would take weeks to cook. Like she would cook one week, I would cook the next. So none of us were ever really having to constantly buy groceries. Yeah. And another thing that was really sweet was, if I remember correctly, like I didn't really, I mean, I think I had credit cards, but I had never lived in an apartment of my own. Yeah. And her parents offered to like be the backup for like our utilities. Cause I think when you had to sign up, like it had to be someone with credit, or I don't remember, but her parents were super sweet and were like just proud of us for like living in an apartment and starting things. But she was really, really messy in her bedroom, and I was pretty semi-neat in mine.
Yeah.
And I laid the ground rules that she could be as messy as she wanted in her bedroom, but in our common living room, that could not happen. And so I was like, because when you walked into our townhouse, like, you could see everything, the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room right from the door.
Yep.
And I was like, keep it upstairs. But I even think, like, when you moved in, you know, I don't know if we sat down and had an official talk, but
I think we did.
I
just
know
don't think we considered it an official talk. I think we were
right,
just having a conversation.
Right.
But
I had made space for you in the closet and in the drawers, and, you know, I was like, whatever food is here is your food, our food. I was like, I fully expect you, like, to keep things clean on your sink and to help keep things clean. And I hate saying, I know that a lot of people think, like, gender roles are identified when you have a couple. And I don't believe that always to be the case, because I did live alone until my late 40s. So I've done everything in this house, and I'm not above doing anything if I need to do it. Today I picked up all the trash and took it to the trash can. But generally, you taking out the trash to the curb is your job.
Yeah.
In the sense of jobs.
Right.
You enjoy the vacuuming. I don't know if enjoy is the correct word, but
I like it.
Yeah, you do. I think it's one of your things. I don't mind the dusting. I like doing the laundry and drying, and I've made my perfect match because you enjoy actually folding and putting it away.
I did not realize this until I moved in here, how much I love folding and putting clothes away.
You do.
And how much I'm just like looking at the laundry. By the way, we haven't talked about this. So we're just going to be off topic this whole episode. Who cares? Our laundry room, our utility room has been remodeled, and we can both stand in there at the same time. Because
we had like all of our pool stuff, our towels, our swimsuits. We had an extra like a rack. But then we would try to get like our laundry baskets in there. We couldn't even open the dryer the whole way. I mean, there was like a hanging bar with like one shelf. And so our friends, Wes and BJ, have started a business. So if you need the information, give us a shout out. We'll be happy to send it if you're local in BR. Hey, they might even travel like to other close areas. But he came and I wanted a whole nother set of cabinets, but obviously I wasn't going to get exact cabinets that totally matched. So he moved the current cabinetry to the other side of the laundry room that matched the bar cabinets that were in there, and then added new cabinets and a floating shelf. It is so beautiful. Yes. I mean, I had cleared the whole room out while you were at work. This literally happened in under 24 hours, which was nuts. And so I had cleared every single thing out of the laundry room except the washer and dryer. And they came and did it, and it forced my hand at purging stuff. Like I was like, I haven't seen this in like 7 years. It's going in the donation bin. Like I already have my good deed for January. For my resolutions, I have a donation box already getting ready to go out for the Vietnam veterans pickup. But so I cleaned stuff out. I threw stuff away that was dirty, gross, non-usable, and that has been amazing. So it has made doing laundry so pleasant this week.
Yes,
and
I agree.
So that is definitely one of the things that I think you and I, paying bills. Obviously, the bills were all in my name, but we share those. And cooking, I think, is also something that we share the task of doing. Like, I always joke that I'm your sous chef, but like I've prepared, some of the things, and you will usually do the main thing. I'll do the sides and, set up the plates. But I definitely think when you have a roommate or a partner, those things should definitely be addressed, because I do know, and I'll see it on the Facebook and stuff, where people complain that one partner isn't helping, or, that they get upset about it. And I'm like, why don't you tell them? And maybe they do, and it's just a conflict in their life. I have no idea. But Yeah, it's interesting
Right.
about that. I don't think you and I have those struggles.
No, we don't. We have always kind of balanced each other from the get-go.
Yeah.
But yeah, having roommates, I think one of the big issues that people always have, or something that always ends up being like a big conflict, is when people don't. It really is people not catering to your pet peeves. I think that's like a really big thing that always happens with the roommates, because it's like I've always kind of made the joke to myself, and I'll say it to people sometimes, but they just think I'm being a jerk, and I'm not. I'm just like kind of making a joke that like, I know this isn't what it means, but the pet in pet peeve stands for petty. It doesn't actually do that. It doesn't actually stand for that. But that's always been like kind of my joke, because...
Like, give me an example.
Well, I mean, if it's a pet peeve, if it's something that doesn't, like, I can't think of one, but like, because it could be, that could be a big deal to someone and not a big deal to others.
Gotcha.
But like, let's just say, for example, I do this for you because I know it's one of your pet peeves, is you hate it when drawers are like slightly open.
Yes.
You hate it when doors are like slightly ajar.
Yes.
It kind of drives you crazy, and it doesn't bother me. So like, I know that it bothers you, so I try to remember that, and I try to like close the. That's kind of what I mean, but it's different with you and me, because I want to make you happy.
Well, you care about me, and
in
so
a different way that you would a roommate. So
people, I really get scared with the drawers open. I think monsters are hiding in there. I don't know what it is.
Was there like a movie or a TV show?
I don't know. It just drives me insane.
Okay.
I'm
fine.
I'm half joking, but like doors definitely being ajar.
Yeah.
I like sleeping with the doors closed. I figure at least maybe I would hear someone that was coming in the house if they tried to come in the door. The drawers, I don't know. I'm kidding about the monsters in the drawers, but it's definitely something.
Yeah.
I hate when the drawers are like half ajar, or like a sock is sticking out of it or something. I'll go in and tuck the sock in and then close the drawer.
Right.
I think it looks neater, or it looks clean.
It's kind of my thing with, like, it's not a pet peeve, but me just always having to make the bed. Like,
oh yeah,
I just love
the
look of it. I just love the look of it.
I never have made my bed, and you enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So like, our bed is made,
right? But I'm just saying, if you have a pet peeve and you want your roommate to cater to it, then if they come to you with their pet peeve, you can't sit there and say that's stupid.
Correct.
'Cause I think that's like another big problem that people have.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, your pet peeve could be seen as stupid. You know what I mean? Like, not yours, but like just in general.
I know.
But yeah, so I just think like, then that's what I mean with compromise. I was just kind of elaborating on that a little bit.
I do have a question. Have you always had roommates? So this was one that I initially really was worried about when you moved in, and that was, you were a smoker when we met, and through the first year of our relationship.
Yes.
Have you ever roomed with a non-smoker where you still smoked in the living space?
No, I think the only apartments where I smoked in the living space was the Jones Creek Village apartment.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
I think that's the only apartment that I was like allowed, I guess, to smoke in there. Never said anything, so
gotcha.
I'll bleep that name out. He never said anything. He never cared. I'm not gonna say anything else.
Why?
I almost called him. I could cut this out. He was one step above a slumlord.
Yeah. Well, those apartments.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not dissing. I mean,
those are great apartments, but I'm probably going to agree with what you're about to say.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't like. I mean, if you looked at them from the street, I mean, you would be like, okay, but I mean, if it's what you could afford, I mean,
$750 a month.
It's insane. Like, there are these like new apartment townhouse things like right around the block from us that are going for $1,850 a month,
and it's in a flood zone.
That's more than our mortgage and homeowners insurance. I was like, and to top it off, probably including more than our utilities.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. And so I get it, but he definitely did not keep up the place.
No.
I mean, we pass by every now and then because it's near where you work, and we do see some slight improvements, but there's a lot that needs to be done.
Yes. Some of those other apartments, mine wasn't, but some of those buildings had some infestations.
Yeah.
So luckily not the one that I lived in, though.
Yeah. So when you moved in, I will say that was one of my concerns. I initially didn't even think that you wouldn't want to smoke. And I remember you telling me, you were like, I'm not going to smoke in here. And like, I remember you would go and sit on the back patio and you had like your little like ashtray thing.
Right.
And,
I also had Maggie.
Yeah. And then you had Maggie, which we would let her out and she would sit out there with you. I would go and sometimes sit out there with you. But yeah, you definitely did not ever consider smoking inside. So
and I never did.
You never did.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I mean, I've had other roommates. I've been, like I said, I have a story about me being a bad roommate. So when I was living in, this is a story about me being a bad roommate.
Okay.
This was when I had just moved in with a former coworker of mine. He lived in like this townhouse off of like, I think it was off of like Florida by Wooddale. It was actually a really nice townhouse. We shared a bathroom. The tub was, I don't know who lived there before us, but like the tub was like a jacuzzi. It was huge.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a really cool townhouse, and there was like a community pool, and it was really nice. And this was me coming off of living with 3 other people where I kind of was living in filth, and so I kind of became
a clean freak.
No, that was when I became if you can't beat them, join them. And I became very messy and very like careless with my mess and not picking up after myself. And it was living with Jody that took, it very quickly into it, where I kind of got back into my old habits of being cleaner and neater.
Gotcha.
So one time I was sitting, okay, so if you're eating right now, sorry. This might,
I don't think I've heard this story.
This might gross you out. Yeah, because it's very not like me. So I think maybe it just doesn't pop up in my brain. So I was sitting by myself. At this point, I was home alone. I was sitting in the living room and I was clipping my toenails, and I didn't want to like get them anywhere. At least I was putting like that thought into it. I didn't want them just to be like all over the place. So I was kind of doing them over a paper towel. And so I had done that, and I had these toenail clippings that were in this paper towel, on this paper towel. And just so it wouldn't be like a gross visual, I had folded it over so you couldn't see it. And so Jody came home, and this was when Little Caesars had just kind of come back, and they were all doing these like $5 ready to go pizzas that you could just go and pick up. And so he was bringing home like 3 pizzas every other day kind of thing, because we lived literally right down the street from Little Caesars. And so he came, and he was like, hey, you want some? Like, we ate. And then I'd gotten up, and he, I guess, thought the paper towel was just a paper towel and it was clean. And he picked it up to wipe his mouth and got my toenail clippings in his mouth.
Ew.
And he did not speak to me for like 2 days.
Oh my God. Well, okay, obviously my head is running rampant with, why hadn't you just thrown it away?
Because I forgot. Because that wasn't in my, like, I wasn't thinking about that at the time.
Yeah.
Now I clip my toenails in complete privacy, and I do it. I put my foot on the toilet seat and do it directly into the toilet. So that's why I do that. That is the reason why I do that. And then I clean the toilet bowl off because my foot was just on there. So like I became, that living experience, I became a lot more considerate because I lived with someone who was very clean and who was very neat and wasn't going to pick up after me, which I appreciate. I appreciate him doing that. So that's my story. I have other stories about being a bad roommate, but I don't want to get in. We don't have to get into all that.
And I don't know if that necessarily makes you a bad roommate, but I definitely,
dumb boy. Yeah. I mean, like, I was just kind of being a thoughtless, boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would call myself a good roommate.
I think
overall.
I feel like I was a good roommate as well. I'm sure I'm not perfect. I don't know anyone who's perfect, but yeah, I always feel like I would offer to help. I would offer to cook. I'm, just like us today, we love having people over. Mm-hmm. So we, me and Pam would have parties. I mean, heck, for that matter, Pam and I had parties in our dorm room.
Nice.
So we always had people over. So yeah, I think I was a good roommate. I mean, I'm messy. generally still to this day. I mean, if you saw the pile of clothes in the corner in my chair, but
messy
again,
is different than dirty.
Correct. Again,
filth.
I think that, and it's like all clean clothes. It's just all sitting on my chair. It's stuff that I've washed since coming back, and I just haven't put it away. But that also goes to one of my other New Year's resolutions, and that is to purge things. So I've been going through drawers and closets, and again, kind of like looking at stuff, looking at expiration dates of like medicines or, like last night I was cleaning in the bathroom and I found a makeup palette, and I know I got it in like 2008. And I'm like, why do I have this? I'm like,
why do we keep the things that we keep?
I'm
Who
like,
knows?
this thing is probably full of bacteria. And, so that went in the trash.
Yeah.
So I cleaned out the bathroom drawers. Maybe I'll attack the bathroom closet tomorrow. Who knows? But yeah, it's just purging work things and boxes. Any of our friends that are listening know about the work boxes that are in this house. So, anywho.
Yeah. You want to get into this summary?
Do it.
All right. So I made the font bigger so maybe I could see it better.
Thank you.
Because, I get the blur,
get the glare.
the lights, and I get the glare, and then then it starts getting blurry. All right. New Girl Pilot Summary. Jessica Jess Day is in the back of a cab talking to her best friend Cece on the phone. Jess is spicing up her relationship with her live-in boyfriend Spencer by coming home early from a trip and showing up wearing nothing underneath a trench coat in hopes to seduce him and have a little spontaneity in their love life. I don't know how I would handle if you just came home and just took a trench coat off. That would drive me insane in a good way.
Hey.
Jess arrives at their apartment and attempts to seduce Spencer only to discover he is there with another woman. Yeah, so this is kind of what I'm talking about with her being, I guess the word that you would use is adorkable. I guess that's the term. Because when I was looking up, like when I was typing up the synopsis and doing all of that, I kind of found this one recap, and that was what they kept referring to her as adorkable. She didn't coin that, obviously, but it was like that's the best example of what that means.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why it was hard for me to get into it at first. I'm like, oh, but she's knocking stuff over, like that whole thing. But it was still a funny scene.
Yeah.
So now that Jess is single and has moved out of the apartment, she needs a place to live. She responds to an ad thinking she is potentially moving in with 3 women, but it turns out to be 3 men. Nick, Schmidt, and Coach, 3 best friends since college who are all vastly different. Schmidt comes across as a bit shallow and neurotic, and he really is like trying to like he just thinks he's really hot, and that whole stereotype, and he'll say very kind of, I don't know what else you would kind of tool bag things, very very typical. Still funny though, because he's usually the butt of everyone's joke. Coach seems very serious and a guy's guy, while Nick is similar to Jess in that he is getting over a recent breakup, which I never really thought about that they were kind of in the same part of their life at that moment where they were getting over a big breakup and they were kind of coming out of it. So Nick and Coach are hesitant on living with a girl, especially after Jess reveals that she is very emotional, randomly bursts into song, and will have Dirty Dancing on repeat while dealing with her breakup. Which, I mean, I think Mabu does 2 of those 3 things. We're both emotional and we both randomly burst in a song. So
and I do have things on repeat, so
we do watch a lot of the same stuff over and over again. So you are very correct. Schmidt is also hesitant until Jess tells him that her best friend Cece is a model. So of course Schmidt, thinking that it was like, oh, she has model friends, she needs to move in with us. So he kind of, he convinces Nick and Coach for Jess to move in. But, I mean, like, within a week, it's like less than a week maybe, they're kind of already regretting it, and Schmidt's plan has already kind of backfired because these model girls because these model girls are just going to come over to your apartment, Schmidt.
Right.
Which I know is, like, the point of the character. But, yeah, like, no models are coming over, but instead Jess is doing exactly what she said she was going to do. She's on the couch, crying her eyes out, watching Dirty Dancing, specifically the end, which, I mean, I think we all know that, and the time of your life, and, no one puts baby in a corner, and the lift, and
all the things.
All the things. So in order to get their shared living space back, Schmidt tells Jess that she needs to get out and try to find a rebound to help get over Spencer. He tells Jess that he will be her guide to meeting men. Meanwhile, Schmidt is also desperate to get into I didn't realize the full name of the party until I looked it up, the Wild Wild West Charity Auction Party, which is like Charity Auction Party followed with Wild West. It's really funny. It's the exclusive, invite-only party of the year type of thing. His only connection is Caroline, Nick's ex-girlfriend. Schmidt begs Nick to call Caroline to get him on the list, but he's resistant, hesitant, because he hasn't talked to Caroline. Last time he talked to Caroline was via a drunk dial where he kind of yelled at her over a voicemail. Funny to watch, but probably in real life, getting a voicemail like that was probably very alarming.
Yes.
So while getting ready to go out, Coach approaches Jess. This is a really cute scene. Coach approaches Jess and asks her for advice. So Coach, he works as a fitness trainer, and he has kind of been critiqued by his boss and other coworkers that he's not great at motivating women. And so they kind of cut to this clip of him screaming at this woman on a stationary bike, and she's just like, "You're being so mean." He's like, "I'm not being mean, I'm trying to help you." Like, of course, it's Damon Wayans Jr., so how can you be scared of that? I would just be crying laughing if he was yelling at me. Damon Wayans Jr., you could yell at me and I will laugh. I think you were one of the funniest
my God,
one of the funniest people on the planet. So funny, just funnier than his dad. There, I said it. So he's kind of looking to Jess for advice. I have a girl living with me, so why not take advantage of the situation and get some advice? And, Jess basically says what I think most women would say is just to listen and engage and kind of just get to know them and be aware of their needs and stuff like that. And so they kind of like, okay, well, while we're living together, we can practice, and so kind of establishing, even though Coach is gone by episode 2, their friendship kind of picks back up when he comes back. I seem to recall. Okay, so the guys and Jess go to the bar where Nick works as a bartender to find Jess a rebound. Unfortunately, Jess's quirkiness prevents her from really getting to know any of the men, which was also kind of a funny scene of her just being I give her a hard time, but I think you and I are both very similar, and we are just unapologetically ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And we are big dorks, and we don't really care, and this is just who we are, and luckily we found each other so we don't have to deal with this. But, I mean, yeah, it's just really funny because, like, I'm seeing all this, and I'm just like, it's really not that. They're making it like she's such a terrible person, and I'm like, she's just goofy,
Yeah.
Oh, well. So Schmidt's frenemies, Benjamin and Peter, so we mentioned him earlier, Todd it was really funny, the recap that I wrote also, every time that he said Benjamin, he put Todd, I mean Benjamin, every time he talked about this character, which was really funny. Made me think of you. They show up to the bar mostly to gloat to Schmidt that they got an invite to the big party. Schmidt is immediately envious, and this just makes him more persistent on asking Nick to call Caroline. Jess and Nick begin having a conversation about getting over their exes. Nick admits to Jess that he doesn't even know the real reason why Caroline dumped him, which is why he can't seem to move past the breakup. How do you feel about... Okay, sorry, off topic. Not off topic. I'm just asking you a question. How do you feel about... What is your kind of thought on people who, like, say things like, I need closure from this relationship? Like, what do you think about that? Because I have my opinion. So it's just like...
I have always had this sentiment, and it really goes to anything in my life. If you don't want anything to do with me, I'm good with that.
Right.
Like, bye.
And
it goes to things like, if you don't want me at your party, if you don't want to include me in a dinner or on a trip or everything, I'm not going to say that it doesn't like initially bother me. I mean, I'm not like, I don't, have a stone cold heart.
I made a stone, yeah.
I mean, I think I've maybe told you about hearing from my high school friend group where they went on a trip to like Tybee Island or Savannah or somewhere. And I found out about it at a dinner that we all got together many, many years later.
This was like recent, wasn't it?
Well, they went like around college time.
When you found out about it.
And then I found out about it a few years ago. And one of them like snapped really fast and were like, oh my God, well, we didn't know your phone number to try to find you. And I was like, my mom has lived in the same house since like 1963 and we've had the same phone number. So like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, of course they were trying to cover, and I don't know if it was to cover that they had intentionally left me out.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have been fine the rest of my life not having gone on that trip, and I have been fine ever since.
Yeah.
But it's always about things like that. Like if you don't want me to be part of your parade crew or your social club, like I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, I'm not dead inside. My feelings might be hurt, but I'm also a big believer in I'm going to go make my own party. And that also extends to relationships. I have lost girlfriends if they've gotten mad at me for stupid reasons. And, you know, I have just been like, okay, well, I can't be anyone who I'm not.
Right.
You know? So I can try to apologize if it was something that I've done or thought I did. But, yeah. So I don't know. What about you?
Yeah. So I think closure is not real. I think you can't ever really have closure from a relationship until you kind of have to. I think a lot of times when people think of closure, they think that like the other person has to give it to them, but really about closure, you kind of have to give it to yourself.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like the big thing. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in translation with that, because like I can't tell you how many times, like, well, not so many times, but I've been dumped before, and I've broken up with girls before, and you know, I've been in the relationship where I've been in a relationship where I got broken up with, and I kind of just kept wanting to know why, and it kind of dawned on me at some point that I was just like, why am I wasting so much time on someone that doesn't want to be with me? Like, why?
Right.
But I think a lot of people, it's not that they want closure, they just want to hear a very specific thing. Like they,
oh yeah,
like they, it's, and if
why
it's
not me, or why
yeah,
me?
So they want. I had a friend who was in a very long-term, I won't say names, but like I had a friend who was in a very long-term relationship, and they were together for like 8 years or something like that. They're together for a really long time, and she broke up with him, and they ended their relationship, but they had been together for so long, and they had known each other for way longer than they had dated. They'd known each other for like half their lives. So they had the same friend group, like their families were kind of intertwined with each other, and so they kind of had to remain in each other's lives post breakup, which I mean is rough, but I mean it happens, and it's something that could be manageable maybe over time if you keep it cordial and you kind of keep them at a distance. But I think because she tried to be cordial with him, that he was receiving that incorrectly, and he thought of it as there's hope, and he kept wanting to talk to her and talk about closure, and every time they had this conversation, it would be like, before he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to her, and we're gonna have a conversation, we're gonna talk about our relationship, and whatever happens. He would always say that. He'd be like, whatever happens. I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, all right, your words, like, I'm not telling you what to say. So, and then he would come back and he would be pissed off and he would be mad because he wasn't being told what he wanted to hear.
He didn't get an answer.
Right.
And there
well,
just might not
get the
be
answer.
one.
He didn't get the answer that he wanted. It ended up probably just being a criticism on him as a partner, and I don't think that's what he wanted to hear. I think he wanted to hear for some reason, it being she admitting that it's her fault, that the relationship, because I think in his mind, he was like, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm the one that got dumped, which I think is another mentality that people have a lot when they get broken up with. But yeah, like, I just think closure is for people who aren't over the relationship and they just want to keep in contact with their ex, and no matter what they're being told, that's not the closure that they wanted. And so
we are
like,
specifically talking closure about relationships, not closure about like death or
no.
like
this
that.
is
Right,
strictly
right.
relationships.
Yeah.
Strictly
and
romantic relationships.
And I think that's hard, especially if you have been in a relationship for a long time with someone, and then all of a sudden it seems sudden to you that maybe there wasn't any communication along the way, that something might have been wrong. So, I mean, that it's like this episode where she comes home in a trench coat, naked, ready to like have some sexy time, and he's cheating on her.
Right.
So like, obviously he's been out and about finding some.
He
and
spiced up his love life.
He spiced it up, and she was thinking like, oh, like everything's good.
Right.
So yeah, I can definitely see closure being a difficult thing. Again, I have talked about this on the pod. I have not been in a lot of long-term relationships. I mean, in fact, most of the relationships I've ever been in were like a few dates, nothing that I would ever really ever call a serious boyfriend of any type, and no one that ever rose to the level that I'd ever even consider marrying them.
Yeah.
So that's how, like, maybe that's why I don't have a real good perspective on closure, because I've never personally had to deal with it.
Yeah. I get that, but I think overall my point is, and I said it a second ago, that the only person that you need to make closure with is yourself.
Yeah.
You need to take some time and really think about the things that, not that they did wrong or not the things that you did right. You really just need to think about everything. And you need to take a look at yourself, and you need to, we're never done with ourselves. We can always continue to improve ourselves. And, maybe it wasn't your fault that the relationship ended. Maybe it was. Maybe it's usually a 50-50 thing. But yeah, so I just think closure is just kind of with relationships, romantic relationships, of course, closure is very much a figment of your imagination. Because, I mean, like, you're either going to be over it or you're not. And there's nothing that could be said or done that's going to change that. The only thing that is going to help that is time.
And I think it's really hard.
Time and distracting yourself.
I think it's hard in the scenario you gave, where there was a long-term relationship and there were mutual friends, the families got along, versus something that was like maybe 6 months or something.
Right.
I mean, I think those are difficult scenarios.
All right, rant over. Anna went to go check on potatoes, so I had to pause real quick, but that kind of reset my brain. So let's get back to the summary. All right, so they're at the bar. Let's just recap real quick. They're at the bar right now trying to find Jess a rebound. So Peter begins to flirt with Jess, who Peter came in with Benjamin, and they begin having a conversation. This inspires Nick to text Caroline to ask her if they can get on the list for the party. And Peter asks Jess out on a dinner date, to which she says yes. So Jess's date with Peter is on the same night as the big party, and Nick managed to get him and the guys on the list. So he ended up texting Caroline. So Nick and Jess, I didn't put this in the summary, but Nick and Jess were kind of having a conversation about relationships, and there's kind of this moment where, kind of this joke about, like, Nick is very, I would say, cynical. I think he's one of those people that, like, would call himself a realist, but really he's a pessimist.
Yeah.
Who's a well-spoken pessimist. That's usually what most realists are. But yeah, so, and then, and Jess is the exact opposite. She's very bubbly. She's very, like, even after all of this, even after the whole breakup, she's still trying to be positive. She's still trying to, an attitude that I wish I had a little bit more of the time, because I tend to fall under the cynical category, as I think we both do sometimes.
I do.
So yeah, so this is just kind of they were just kind of having a conversation, seeing how different they are.
I feel like it's a defense mechanism. Like, I don't want to get hurt, or I don't want a friend to get hurt.
Exactly.
And I just go into full on defensive mode. Definitely.
Oh yeah, same. Nick, Coach, and Schmidt arrive at the party, and Nick runs into Caroline. They manage to have some cordial small talk, which, by the way, this is Mary Elizabeth Ellis. She is married to Charlie Day, who is another one of our favorites.
Faves.
Her and Nick managed to have some cordial small talk before Nick asks her why she broke up with him. Caroline tells him that she didn't realize how much he cared about her until they broke up, implying that Nick wasn't very present. Maybe he didn't talk about his feelings. He didn't tell her how he felt. He didn't give her attention. He kind of was just, I think a lot of people, when they're in a relationship for a while, they go on autopilot, and they kind of forget to check in with each other, and they kind of forget to communicate and spend time together. And this is clearly one of those incidences. So Nick realizes that even though Jess is overly optimistic and way too bubbly, she is a wise person. Nick is now relieved that he has some closure with Caroline, meaning that, like, he can kind of take some fault in realizing that, like, the breakup was a lot because of him.
Yeah.
And Caroline trying to make him realize that. While waiting to get in, the guys run into Benjamin and Peter. The guys are confused because Peter's date with Jess is supposed to be happening at that moment. Peter reveals that Jess was just too much for him, so he is standing her up. He's not going to call her. He's not going to let her know. He's just going to let her sit at the restaurant and be stood up. So Nick realizes that Jess is sitting at that restaurant alone, and he can't let that happen. Nick and Coach this was so sweet. Nick and Coach immediately run to Jess's aid, and even though he is blowing off the party of the year, Schmidt leaves with them. Jess is at the restaurant alone, waiting for Peter. The server tells her that she has to give up the table soon. But just as she is telling Jess this, the guys arrive. This was so funny. They claimed they're all Jess's boyfriends. She's just it's like polygamy, but it's the woman has all the husbands.
Yeah.
That was so funny. The three guys comfort Jess and tell her that she is a part of the group and that they will always have her back. And then to further prove their loyalty to Jess, the guys start singing The Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing in the middle of the restaurant. Obviously, they get kicked out, but as they're getting kicked out, they're walking out, they're still singing the song. And then that's the end of episode. Super cute.
It was really
super
good.
Cute. This is another one of those shows. You'll hear me use the word charming. Very charming, very sweet, it's definitely, this falls under feel good. I would say feel good, funny, comedy, very happy endings. Parks and Rec, just a show that you watch. Yeah. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just a show that you watch that just puts you in a good mood. And I kind of just want to rewatch the series, and I think it's super easy because it's like 20-something minute episodes. So, we talked a lot. So let's just go ahead and wrap this up. We don't want to keep you any longer. That wraps up this episode of We Judge a Show by its pilot. Thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. You actually have a nice little list.
I have a nice little list. So I have the girl, any of the guy emojis, the party hat and champagne, but that's for New Year's because you're getting this in the new year. The cab, the phone, the dancing emoji, heartbreak, a list, the running emoji, the teacher emoji, the bike emoji, and the cocktail emoji.
Oh.
All right. Well, I think that wraps things up. We're going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.